Well, it's a Christmas season, so I thought I'd take a look at something a little more of a festive holiday spirit. And for this review, I'm going to take a look at the film Christmas Eve from 1947. Starred George Raft, George Brent, Randolph Scott, Joan Blondell, Anne Harding, and a bunch of other people. It's an enjoyable, feel-good Christmas film. It's got some interesting twists and unexpected subplots. Really enjoyed it a lot, though. I'll give it an overview, and then I'll offer some closing thoughts. Well, the film opens up. It's at a mansion in the city, and there's the character Aunt Matilda. She's this eccentric old woman played by actress Anne Harding. She does this weird thing where she scoops up bird feed and just sprinkles it on the carpet. Then they open the windows to let a bunch of birds in the house. It's a little strange, but it's her unusual behavior here and how she spends money, apparently in a lot of foolish ways, that has her greedy nephew, Philip Hastings, played by actor Reginald Denny, wanting to basically have her judged to be incompetent so that he can take control of her fortune. Well, in order to prevent this, Matilda promises to this judge and a doctor that are there that her three adopted sons, Michael, Mario, and Jonathan, they will all be home on Christmas Eve and that they will prove her competency in handling money. So there's the main plot of this film so far. And hey, check out, she's got a really cool train set on the table that she uses to serve like sugar and stuff for the tea. So again, she's a little eclectic, but does she deserve to lose control of her fortune due to how she spends money? Well, we'll find out. Well, we cut over to the first of her sons. This is a character, Michael, played by actor George Brent. He's sort of this goofy playboy character. He's in his hotel room trying on some skis. When the character Anne arrives, she's played by the gorgeous actress Joan Blondell. I've seen her in a bunch of films. Really love her as an actress because she's got a very quick wit, really great with the zingers and so on. And she's here as the love interest of Michael. Well, she gives him a big kiss and he turns away, seemingly disinterested in her advances. We find out he's actually engaged to another woman. But, I mean, come on. Joan Blondell wants to give you a kiss. What's wrong with you, man? Well, she sees that he's got all of his bags packed up, and she just starts tearing into him, throwing things all around the room, and when he sees this, he gets annoyed, and she just plants him with another kiss. Well, some jewelry is delivered to Michael, but it's got an inscription on it that it's for another woman. Well, Anne isn't too pleased about that, and she tosses it out a window. Uh, well, the character Harriet arrives, played by actress Molly Lamont, and Michael introduces Anne as his sister. Now, of course, Anne is very annoyed about this, and the two of them end up squabbling, and Harriet eventually leaves, kind of figuring Michael for the player that he is. Now, Anne is persistent and just won't give up on this guy. Well, Philip Hastings arrives, remember the guy from earlier in the film, the manipulative nephew, and we find out that Michael has apparently written $75,000 worth of bad checks. Now, Philip, he's manipulative, offers to cover Michael's debts and leaves him with a bunch of money. But Philip knows that this type of a loan will make Michael too ashamed to come back home to Matilda on Christmas Eve. He's basically trying to get these guys out of the picture. Well, Michael shows the money he has to Anne, and she doesn't like this at all, and she leaves. Well, Matilda is persistent on trying to track down her sons, and she meets with a private detective, Gimlet, who's played by one of my favorite actors, Joe Sawyer. He usually plays like a thug or a tough guy. He's a great actor, and he basically gives her an update that her son Michael had to clear out of town over some bounced checks. And he also tells her that he's still working on locating the character Mario. And sure enough, we cut over to Mario, and it is like the film shifts gears from a more comedic tone to more of a shadier crime film. We're now in South America, and there's Mario, played by actor George Raft, another one of my favorite actors. There's some great names in this film. Anyhow, he's at a train station to pick up his sweetheart Claire, played by actress Virginia Field. Now, he owns a club down in South America, appears to be involved with organized crime, as a Fed comes to visit with him. Now, this Fed knows they can't touch him, but asking him to see if he might want to work with them on one of their jobs. And he refuses, I'd be happy to introduce you to the chief of police down here, that type of thing. So the Feds know that he's untouchable, and man, yeah, again, this film suddenly shifted from comedy into crime, but it's pretty cool. Now, on the way out of the door, the Fed mentions that there's a Nazi war criminal on the loose, and they'd love to capture him. And he also brings up the situation with Matilda as well, his mother. Now, Mario seems conflicted, and the scene ends with him arranging for a flight back home, even though it might mean his arrest and incarceration. Now, back home, Gimlet gives an update to Matilda about Mario, and it seems he's still trying to find Jonathan, that third elusive son. Now we cut back to Mario's story again, and we see him outside of his club. He gets grabbed by some of the evil Nazis' goons, and he's brought back to the boat of character Gustav Reichmann, who's played by actor Konstantin Shane. He's a good sinister character in this film. I liked him. And, of course, they bring him back to the boat, they tie him up, and they beat him up. And we find out that Reichmann has been secretly involved with Claire, his girlfriend. And yes, prior to his conviction at the Nuremberg trials, Reichmann apparently had come to South America to retrieve $10 million, which he gave to Claire to hold on to as escape money. Claire says that she will reveal where this money is if they will only let Mario go. So they take Mario away to lock him in a room on this boat, but he manages to escape. And there's a shootout, and he manages to damage the engine, causing it to stop. And he gets into this big fist fight with some of Reichmann's guys, and it's actually a really exciting scene. As Michael's fighting with them, there's flames and smoke everywhere. He finally defeats them, puts out the fire, and then sneaks back. Now, looking down from a roof hatch, he sees this Reichmann character, and he manages to shoot and kill him. But as he falls, this Reichmann manages to shoot Claire, who ultimately dies in Michael's arms. I mean, wow, what a great ending to this crime chapter of this film. Well, we turn from this and we cut back to Matilda. Now, she's watching film footage of her third son, Jonathan. He's played by actor Randolph Scott. And he's like this ultimate cowboy character. He's riding on a bucking bronco and a rodeo. Randolph Scott was actually a star of many westerns, so he's right at home here in this character as this cowboy who's getting thrown off his horse. So we cut over to his story. Jonathan arrives at Grand Central Station. He stops at a bar and kicks back this massive drink, and he sees Jean watching him and kind of flirting with him. And she's played by gorgeous actress Dolores Moran. And wow, this film had so many great actors and actresses in it as well. I saw Dolores before in the film To Have and Have Not with Bogart and Bacall. So she's flirty with him. And through a somewhat zany series of events, he bids on a baby bassinet at an auction, wins it, gives it to her, and then winds up heading with her to an orphanage as she attempts to adopt 3 babies because, get this, she's actually an undercover investigator and is trying to expose a baby racket. And she only flirted with Jonathan because she needed a strong-looking guy to pose as her husband, unaware. It sounds even sillier as I was writing all that out. But it's, I guess, we'll go with it. It's cute in a Hallmark movie sort of way, even if it is completely ridiculous. And I do like how this Jonathan character remains in his kind of cowboy character through the film. He's not afraid to draw his gun or even make comments about these babies as 3 little fillies at the old corral. Okay. Well, we cut back to Matilda. She's waiting by her Christmas tree. She's got some punch made, and the judge is still there, but they're waiting for the 3 sons. And she starts to look concerned. So all of them seem to be very busy with their own individual dilemmas. But will they make it back in time for Christmas Eve with their mother? Well, with only about 10 minutes of this film left, I'm going to stop the review here, and I'll let you check out this one for yourself. Okay, some closing thoughts about the film Christmas Eve from 1947. Honestly, I enjoyed this one, but it was really a weird blend of genres going on. I mean, it opens up like a traditional holiday drama with a little humor and warmth. And then we learn the story is basically about this widow who believes in the goodness of her adoptive sons and that they will all make it home for Christmas. But then the theme of the film just sort of jumps around to the completely different stories of these 3 sons. Now, the story of Michael maybe fits the most with the kind of Christmas comedy drama. He's the carefree playboy with a quick-witted sweetheart, gets into some comical mischief. But now Mario's story is that it's like a straight-up crime drama, and Jonathan is sort of a quirky cowboy getting mixed up in a crime romantic baby heist story. And yeah, maybe these subplots are really all over the place. Yet I thought it was great, and it's crazy how they all do sort of resolve at the end. Thinking about this film, the producers easily could have taken these three stories of these three sons and just kind of stretched them out into their own film. I think each of them would have made a satisfying film on their own. But instead, they're all sort of combined into this 1 hour and a half film. And I mean, honestly, the George Raft South America crime narrative alone was fantastic. I probably enjoyed that as the highlight of this film. Could have made a great film by itself. Anyhow, Christmas Eve was directed by Edwin Elmarin and produced by Benedict Beaujeu. Hope I said that right. It's interesting. I think this is the first Beaujeu production I've ever reviewed, and I'm not sure about the public domain for this one. But there are quite a few copies on YouTube. I'll link them below. And some thoughts on the film. The Christmas narrative itself, as I said, was a sweet one, and we are sympathetic about the character Matilda, and if her sons will return or not. And, we the viewers, admittedly, we're on the fence about this, because, she is a little eclectic. Is she going to lose her home? But, it's a Christmas movie, so I'll just say this much. It's a happy ending. It was interesting to read that Anne Harding was actually younger than some of the actors who played her sons in this film. She was only 45 when the film was released and just wore the makeup to look older. Now, regarding the three subplots, the first one with George Brent and Joan Blondell, I thought was really funny, as this couple and the zingers from Joan Blondell were just hilarious. I love her zaniness and her quick wit. And there's plenty of that fun banter as Michael's fiancée arrives and she tries to get rid of her. And, as I said, I think each of these stories could have almost made their own film. And this part was no exception. And, when the film shifted to the next narrative, I actually found myself missing these actors and wondering, well, when are we going to get to see more of them? So if anything, I would identify that as one of the negatives. You get attached to these characters, but then we jump over to a different part of the story. So there's that. Now, the story with the next son, with George Raft and Virginia Field, was honestly like watching a completely different movie. And you can't help but pick up that Bogart Casablanca vibe. He's at a club in an exotic locale. He's got a beautiful love interest. There's a Nazi character involved. And, a lot of those crime film tropes are here as well. The villain ties him up and slaps him around. And there's a shootout with smoke and fire. The femme fatale dying in his arms and so on. It's all great. I do enjoy George Raft films, and I think I'm going to try to get to more of his films as we get into the next year. Also, the actor Konstantin Shane, as evil Nazi, I thought he was a great nemesis here. And watching it, I couldn't help but be reminded just a little bit of the character, the evil Colonel Vogel from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, played by actor Michael Byrne. Maybe it's just me. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, but I noticed a similarity there, and I really liked that. And the third story about that final son, Randolph Scott, as the cowboy character with Dolores Moran, honestly did seem like the silliest part of this narrative, and yet it was really cute. And I did like his super macho, ultra cowboy character. Dolores Malone is adorable, even if the idea of picking up a cowboy character at a train station in order to rescue babies, yeah, that's a little silly. But, heck, it's a Christmas film. And Christmas movies can be a little bit ridiculous. And in spite of all of, my minor complaints, this crazy scramble of genres and so on, I still really enjoyed this film. It is a fun, heartwarming Christmas film. It's got a lot of great actors. It's got some funny stuff, some great dialogue, and it's worth checking out.